Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Now, if you couldn't tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be talking today about the new Dune Adventures in the Imperium role-playing game by Modiphius Entertainment. When I picked this book up a couple weeks ago, I was looking forward to getting to review it. It's a fresh title. The new adaptation is coming out hopefully in October. That all looks good. It's, I got a chance to play the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game that Modiphius did for a couple months back during this last winter. So I have a chance to maybe even be able to analyze this and have some insight on how, the rules changes they've made to their 2D20 system might play things out. I was really thinking it was going to be a nice, positive review. And unfortunately, the more I've read into it, the more I found myself a little deflated in wanting to make this video. Now, in general, I would say this book is worth picking up under certain circumstances. If you are a big fan of Frank Herbert's Dune, definitely. The art production quality, the research that goes into the setting details and all that kind of stuff is very thorough and accurate to the books. It does incorporate a lot of stuff from the Brian Herbert spin-off novels, which I'm a little, about, but if anything, that does at least potentially open up a few other eras of play if you want to run Dune set during the Butlerian Jihad or something like that. And because of my experience with Star Trek, I was anticipating that, the rules might have a few issues with them, but it's going to have a really fun character creation system, and, it's going to, have a nice, thorough presentation of the Dune universe. And like I said, it does have a thorough presentation of the Dune universe. But the character creation system is actually kind of flat. It's very vague. I would say, beyond being, if you're a Dune fan, if you're an experienced dungeon master and you have very experienced creative players, then yes, this might be a good game for you to try out. However, the character creation is so broad, and how you can come up with concepts for it, which, on the surface isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for people who are new to the Dune universe, or have mainly only, maybe seen, the old movie or the miniseries from the Sci-Fi Channel, it might be hard for them to kind of figure out exactly what they want to do with it. And there's another kind of flaw in the presentation of this book. Most role-playing games are written in such a way that while presenting the setting, there's little hints of kinds of plot hooks that you, as the dungeon master, game master, referee, whatever you're calling yourself, can pick up on and develop into, bigger and larger stories. And this kind of unfortunately just presents the Dune universe as is, and because the Dune universe is so, the books are so tied up into the big arcing plots of politics and power, there's very little in the way of what life is like for the everyman. And since most role-playing games at least start off with characters playing, Joe Average, and then learning how to become a big important person as they gain power and contacts and wealth and experience, I find it it's not terribly obvious what to do. This has a chapter for all the characters are supposed to all be members of the same house that they all get to make together. On the surface, sounds cool. However, that makes a lot of the interesting factions of the Dune universe be kind of a subset. You could be a Sook Doctor, you could be a Spacing Guild member, you can be a member of the Bene Gesserit, but that is secondary to the fact that as a player group, you're all part of a same house. And the house creation rules are unfinished. I mean, they actually tell you so in the chapter on house creation rules that, yeah, the rest of it will be in some supplement down the line, which, right off the bat, major fail. Especially considering that in the Star Trek Klingon Empire variant rulebook for Star Trek Adventures, it has a whole big, thoroughly fleshed out chapter on how to make a house for the Klingon Empire. Why they couldn't just port that over and, change a few names from Klingon to Harkonnen and stuff like that, and bam, they would have had a complete system. Also, because the character creation is so open, you don't have that life path type aspect that Star Trek Adventures and also even Conan and other Modiphius products, as far as I'm aware, present. you have to kind of just make all your own decisions, which, yes, is kind of cool, but there's a thing about, especially with Star Trek's character creation, where you can go in and you have an idea of what you want to play, but there's a few things that are randomized so that you end up having a character that's a little surprising to you and maybe takes some directions you weren't expecting it to go, which to me is fun, and from having had people make Star Trek characters, they find it very fun and engaging too. And Dune is lacking that. Ironically, though, its rule system. This of the like 4 or 5 different Modifius games that I have actually looked over, and the one I've run, this might have the best version of the 2D20 system, most simplified and easiest to understand, and stripped down of a lot of the excess baggage. There are maybe a few things that might be controversial as this game becomes more widely known. The fact that they've replaced character physical and mental attributes with basically a system of ethics that characters rank and then combine with their skills. It seems weird, but it also potentially has the advantage of actually bringing character roleplay into the dice mechanics of playing the game, which potentially could be interesting until I get a chance to, try to dabble with it, assuming I'm going to bother. Now, is this a game for a beginning game master? No. You want to have played a little bit of role-playing games before jumping right into this one, I would think. And my recommendation is, if you want to really be able to fully actualize the setting, you're going to have at least read the Frank Herbert novels and maybe a few of the Brian Herbert novels, although I don't really see that they're, aside from the Butlerian Jihad trilogy, I don't really see that they're too terribly necessary. Personal recommendation of mine, just for me trying to think of what to do with it, would be set it close to one of the established time periods, but not during the established time period, so that you can still get the feel of that era in terms of the political dynamics and the technology levels and all that kind of stuff, but pulled away enough that you're not having to deal with the players directly interfering with plot lines that are, hardwired into the settings progression. For example, if you wanted to set your game in the classic, first novel type setting that is presented in the movies, maybe set it 100 years or so before the events of the first Dune book. That, before the Harkonnens even got control of Arrakis, back when House Riches had Arrakis. That way you can still, you still have the universe close enough to the period of Paul Muad'Dib that, most things are as is. People who've read the book or have seen the movies or be familiar with the look and the types of characters that are in it. But all the people that are, directly involved with all these machinations that go around with the Kwisatz Haderach haven't been born yet. And, it would give you as a dungeon master and your players a lot more freedom. But that's just kind of personal advice. Unfortunately, the thing that's really cringe about Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, and I'm not really sure how much you could rest it entirely on the feet of Modifius and not just as a general trend that the mainstream game publishers are kind of all going through right now. But this book not only has a little section about player consent, but it actually introduces table mechanics for signaling your level of comfort to your game master as the game goes along. And there's just some subtle things about how it's written where, it feels like it needs to remind you to include black people into your NPCs. I would think that anyone with the kind of mindset it would take to enjoy Dune at all and want to run the role-playing game probably doesn't need that kind of advice. It's written with the kind of the assumption that the people who are going to be playing this are white and that they need to be reminded to include ethnic minorities, and that they're going to be, running games set in the Dune universe that are full of gore and scary insects and, non-consensual activities. And, it's an unfortunate thing where the herd's always kind of kept to the speed of its slowest member. Because as I say, my assumption would be anyone who's got the mentality that would be attracted to this game in the get-go wouldn't be doing any of those sorts of things anyway. However, because of the fact that there are those horror stories out there in the gaming world of inappropriate people doing inappropriate things, you know, I guess they feel the need to have to put this kind of stuff in here. But, you know, it's one thing to, you know, suggest having a session 0 where everyone discusses what's going to be on, and people, if they have any, like, hey, I can't deal with spiders, they go ahead and mention that then. But the idea of actually having, like, a colored item that you have, you know, in your little area of your player stuff, where you can change it from green to yellow to red, so you can let the DM know that what he's doing is no bueno. I mean, on the surface, like, yeah, you don't even have to use it, but because it's built in, it's in the book, it's going to suggest to people that maybe they should use it, and it is actually making a mechanic out of it, an actual rules mechanic. And I can't help but wonder how the ripple effects of something like that will have over time. I mean, I'm going to do a follow-up video about this with my wife, because she also has some things to say about it, because I let her download the free PDF that comes along with this so she could read it on her phone. And she certainly has quite a few things to say about it. But, like, you know, I guess the crux of her point that I'll just at least say here is that right off the bat, when she plays one of these games, because her character is in jeopardy, she's automatically feeling uncomfortable. So if we were to be using that kind of a dynamic where she had, like, a little color chart, or a color wheel she could spin to, like, signal to me passively that, you know, how she feels about things, she's already starting off in yellow. And I imagine anyone who's concerned about their character's welfare, like, are they going to be super comfortable during a game where their character's under threat? Even if it's not, you know, something that's, you know, some sort of edgelord bullshit. I don't know. It sets me back a little bit. And like I said, there's kind of like a subtle attitude where it kind of reads like they're just kind of assuming the worst of the people who are going to be playing this. And that's odd. I mean, it's hard to grade. Like I said, it might be the best version of Modifius's rules to date, but the character creation is lackluster. The house rules are unfinished, which is a major flaw if the first thing you're supposed to do in session 0 before you even make your characters is to have all the players design their house. So, I guess that's that. Got it out of the system. That's my feelings on Dune. Depending on who you are, it's worth it. But if you're brand new to gaming, and if you're not already really familiar with the setting, stay away from it. Play Star Trek. Or something. I don't know. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments how I'm wrong, and all that good stuff. See you later.